that Malaysia took some significant steps to address human trafficking, such as amending the Anti-Trafficking Law and Employment Act to include a wider definition of forced labour, as well as convicting more traffickers. However, it claimed that the government, among others, did not adequately address or criminally pursue credible allegations of labour trafficking, as anti-trafficking investigations declined. Malaysia was placed on Tier 2 watch list from 2018 to 2020 before dropping to the lowest tier last year.
The issue of the Sulu claim will not be debated in the Dewan Rakyat. Speaker Tan Sri Azhar Azizan Harun stressed that by doing so, the government's strategy in handling the case may be revealed.
Maukah kita tunjuk strategi kita kepada dunia? First rule of litigation is the element of surprise. First rule of war pun serupa. Ini kita sedang mempertahankan kedaulatan kita. Yang ahli-ahli yang berhormat komplain ni, kita tak mempertahankan. Kita sedang mempertahankan dan kita nak dedahkan strategi kita kepada orang lain.
Azhar also explained that among the reasons that led to the Sulu heirs claiming nearly 63 billion ringgit from Malaysia was because Putrajaya stopped paying the session money of 5,300 ringgit a year to the heirs since 2013. Legal efforts were launched in 2017 by the group to receive compensation over land in Sabah, which they claim their ancestor had leased to a British trading company in 1878. This includes the seizing of assets of 2 Petronas subsidiaries in Azerbaijan on July 12. A motion to debate the matter was earlier rejected, with Kota Belot MP Isna Raisah Munira, who insisted on debating it, was ejected from the Dewan Rakyat and suspended for 2 days. Chaos erupted in the parliament during the debate on the Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill 2021. Pasir Salah MP Datuk Seri Tajuddin Abdul Rahman interrupted the debate and hits back at opposition MPs for calling him out over his sexist remarks.
Mereka tak kenal siapa ni 3 orang. Bagaimana kita menjaga maruah wanita? Bagaimana kita menolong wanita? You don't know how we treat our wanita. Yeah. You don't laugh. You can ask, tanya wanita. UMNO macam mana? Yang kita masalah ni wanita, beberapa orang wanita di AP. Perangai tak senonoh, mulut capul.
Tajuddin had apparently taken issue with Kulai MP Teo Ni Ching's statement yesterday, accusing him together with Baling MP Datuk Seri Aziz Abdul Rahim and Kinabatangan MP Datuk Seri Bung Mokhtar Radin of sexist remarks against women MPs. He claimed Ni Ching's remarks had tarnished their reputations. Opposition MPs then rallied to call on the speaker to take action against Tajuddin and remove him from the hall. However, he was only given a warning. After more than a decade, the Dewan Rakyat finally passed the Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill by majority voice vote. Women, Family and Community Development Minister Datuk Seri Rina Harun says the passing of the bill is the first step to provide protection for victims against sexual harassment. Under the law, those found committing sexual harassment may end up paying their victims a sum of up to 250,000 ringgit in compensation or serve a 2-year jail term. If the sexual harassment was done in public, the offender will also be required to make a public apology. The penalty for companies who fail to manage incidents of sexual harassment in the workplace is also increased from 10,000 ringgit to 50,000 ringgit. Cases will also be dealt with by a 12-member anti-sexual harassment tribunal set up for that purpose. Efforts to enact sexual harassment laws were initiated in 2011, but the proposed bill was only tabled in the Dewan Rakyat for the first time last December. The Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill will now go through the Senate and receive the royal assent before being gazetted for enforcement. So the Dewan Rakyat today passed the Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill, a legislation many years in the making. Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our guests about survivors' right to redress, boosting public awareness, and supporting prevention mechanisms. About 16% of Malaysian athletes experience sexual harassment in sports, based on a study by the National Sports Institute of Malaysia and College University Polytech Mara. But according to Malaysian Masters swimmer Cindy Ong, many athletes who experience such abuses usually suffer in silence. Therefore, she urges for an independent committee to investigate reports of abuse in sports.
People need to know of the existence of such an organization or foundation or whatever this may be, an independent committee. So this needs to reach the mass population, and everybody needs to know. First of all, everybody needs to know the existence. And secondly, when people know about it, then they need to feel safe. So there has to be some sort of assurance that it's confidential, it's anonymous. Because most of the time, when things are confidential and anonymous, it still gets leaked. Like all our data are being sold when you sign whatever agreement. So it needs to be confidential, and then I think then the issue can be tackled more effectively and efficiently.
Victims, she says, often chose against speaking out of fear as they worry it may impact their career negatively. In order to avoid this, Cindy suggested that any independent committee to tackle sexual assault must be completely independent of existing stakeholders within the current sporting infrastructure.
It needs to be a mixture and from people from different backgrounds. So definitely someone with law background, sports background, NGO and humanitarian effort. So definitely people from different walks of life coming together to set up. I don't think that it's, I don't think an athlete per se, just an athlete or a group of athletes will be able to set this up effectively, or just someone from the law or just someone. So I guess it has to be, a formation and working together.
A vast majority of these alleged sexual assaults are committed against women. Cindy says sporting organizations must also face up to this fact and recognize the importance of creating a safer place for female athletes to work and compete.
I think that there needs to be a platform. So either online, most effective way is online, because it's not so feasible to set up an office in every single state or every single district in Malaysia. So an online platform for a complaint and then an investigation. So the police will definitely need to be linked in as well. And if not a police, then some sort of agency that can carry out investigation or at least to be able to redirect the victim. So sometimes for different types of harassment, all the victim needs is just someone to talk to. Or maybe the victim needs hospitalization, or maybe the victim needs psychological help. And we need to have professionals to be able to identify what the victim needs.
We'll take a quick break. More after this. Welcome back. Sri Lanka's acting president Ranil Wickremesinghe will be the country's next president until 2024. But his appointment is feared to trigger more protests by people already furious with his predecessor, Gotabaya Rajapakse, forced out of power for failing to manage the country's worst economic crisis. The result is based on a parliament vote count announced today. Wickremesinghe pulled an absolute majority in a three-cornered vote to replace Rajapakse, who fled the crisis-wrecked country and resigned last week. Many Sri Lankans expressed dismay that Wickremesinghe's win may lead to more demonstrations. Hundreds of police and military troops were deployed around the parliament building. One road had at least 3 barricades. Security personnel and speedboats patrolled the lake around the building, while military jeeps and armored vehicles parked within the perimeter. Protesters see Wickremesinghe as an ally of the Rajapakse family. His private house and office were also stormed by people demanding his ouster earlier this month. Wickremesinghe, a 6-time prime minister, became acting president last week after Rajapakse fled to Singapore. The final 2 candidates to become UK prime minister will be decided soon. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and Penny Mordaunt are battling it out to face frontrunner Rishi Sunak. Former Finance Minister Sunak was only 2 votes short of securing his place in the final 2 after yesterday's voting. Now the race behind him has tightened as Truss clawed back 5 votes to finish only 6 behind Morden. The choice then will be given to the party members to decide the new leader and prime minister, which is expected to be announced on September 5th. Tuesday's vote means Britain will get either its first British Asian prime minister or the 3rd female leader in the country's history. Sunak, whose resignation helped to topple outgoing Conservative leader Boris Johnson, is all but guaranteed to make the final cut. Australian authorities has urged the people to work from home, wear face masks indoors, and get boosted against COVID-19. Hospital admissions from the virus inches towards record levels today as the country faces a fresh and major outbreak. The country is battling a 3rd Omicron wave driven by highly transmissible subvariants BA4 and BA5, with over 300,000 cases logged over the past 7 days. Today's nearly 54,000 new cases was the highest daily tally in 2 months. Some 5,350 people are in hospital with COVID-19, not far off the record 5,300 logged in January during the BA1 outbreak. Many frontline health workers are also sick or in isolation, further straining the healthcare system. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese resists pressure to reinstate curbs like making masks mandatory indoors, but encourages it. And that is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Soraya Mia, and we'll see you again soon.
Kembali dalam dunia Wi-Fi kencang. Dunia yang menyatukan keluarga dengan rancangan tak putus-putus. Teruskan riang di setiap ruang dengan Chicago Fire musim 10. Karaoke Superstar.